Captain Alex Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery and watched the stars through the main window. 3 years into their deep space mission, his crew had seen many strange things, but nothing like what waited ahead of them now. The massive object floated in space near Proxima Centauri, perfectly round and smooth like a giant marble made of crystal. It was huge, bigger than Earth's moon, and it glowed with soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Dr. Lisa Bennett rushed onto the bridge with her tablet in hand. Her eyes were wide with excitement as she looked at the readings on her screen. She had been studying alien life for 20 years, but this was the first time she might actually see proof that intelligent beings existed beyond Earth. The object ahead was clearly not natural, too perfect and too bright to be just another space rock. Commander Jake Martinez followed close behind her, his face showing worry instead of excitement. As head of security, he always thought about danger first and discovery second. He had served in 3 different space missions before. This one, an experience had taught him that unknown things in space were usually dangerous things. The object was sending out energy signals that their sensors could barely understand, and that made him nervous. "Captain, we need to get closer," Dr. Bennett said, her voice shaking with excitement. "The patterns on its surface are changing. Look." At this, she held up her tablet to show him the readings. The crystal sphere had geometric shapes moving across its surface like living tattoos. Triangles became circles, circles became squares, and squares became things that had no names in human language. "I don't like it," Commander Martinez said, crossing his arms. "We don't know what that thing is or who made it. For all we know, getting close could be the last thing we ever do." He had seen too many good people die because they were curious about the wrong things at the wrong time. Captain Rodriguez looked from one officer to the other. Dr. Bennett represented everything good about human nature, the drive to explore and learn and grow. Commander Martinez represented everything smart about human nature, the wisdom to be careful and think before acting. Both were right in their own way, and both were his responsibility. Chief Engineer Sam Carter spoke up from his position at the control panel. "Captain, whatever that thing is, it's using technology we've never seen before. The energy output is incredible, but it's not harmful radiation. It's something else, something our instruments can't quite read." Sam had worked with alien technology before, but only broken pieces found floating in space. This was the first time he had seen something whole and working. Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel sat at the communication station, listening to signals from the strange object. She had learned 12 different human languages and created programs to decode unknown transmissions. Her job was to find patterns in chaos, to make sense of messages that seemed like nothing but noise. "Captain, I'm picking up structured signals, not random energy, but actual communication patterns." The crew gathered around her station as she played the signals through the speakers. The sounds were unlike anything they had ever heard. Musical, but alien, complex, but somehow familiar. Maya worked her magic on the computers, running the signals through every translation program they had. Suddenly, the signals stopped. The bridge went quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Everyone stared at the crystal sphere on the main screen, waiting for something to happen. The geometric patterns on its surface began moving faster, swirling and changing like water in a storm. Then the speakers crackled to life with a voice that spoke perfect English. "Primitive species detected. Your reckless curiosity will lead to your destruction. Withdraw from this area or face the consequences of your actions." The crew looked at each other in shock. Not only was there intelligent alien life, but it knew their language and it was not happy to see them. Dr. Bennett's excitement grew even stronger, but Commander Martinez's worry turned into real fear. "This is Captain Alex Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Discovery," Alex said into the microphone. "We come in peace. We are explorers, not conquerors. We wish only to learn." The voice came back immediately, cold and without emotion. "We are the Vorthok Collective. We have observed your species for many years. You are driven by dangerous curiosity that will destroy you as it has destroyed others. Leave now, or we will make you leave." Captain Rodriguez felt the weight of decision on his shoulders. Earth was expecting them to explore and report back what they found, but they were also expecting him to bring his crew home alive. The smart thing would be to retreat and call for backup. The human thing would be to stay and learn more. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Dr. Bennett was practically bouncing with excitement. Commander Martinez had his hand near the alarm button. Chief Engineer Carter was studying his readings with intense focus. Lieutenant Commander Patel was already trying to analyze the alien voice patterns. What do you think? He asked them all. We have to investigate, Dr. Bennett said immediately. This is the greatest discovery in human history. We should be careful, Commander Martinez replied. They're obviously more advanced than us. I say, we stay. Chief Engineer Carter added. I want to know how they learned English. The communication patterns are fascinating, Maya said. I need more data to understand them. Captain Rodriguez made his choice. We stay, but we stay smart and we stay ready. He turned back to the microphone. We appreciate your warning, but we cannot leave. Human curiosity is not reckless, it is how we survive and grow. The crystal sphere pulsed brighter, and the voice returned with what almost sounded like amusement. Then you will prove our point about your species. Prepare to be tested. The air on the bridge shimmered like heat waves, and suddenly a figure appeared in front of the main screen. It was tall, taller than any human, and made of shifting geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. The patterns moved constantly, triangles becoming circles, lines becoming curves, colors that had no names flowing into each other like liquid light. I am Prime Observer Zethka of the Vorthok Collective, the figure said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere, filling the bridge without using the speakers. You will listen and you will learn why your curiosity is a disease that must be cured. Dr. Bennett stepped forward, her scientific mind overcoming her fear. She had dreamed of this moment her entire life. The first real conversation between humans and aliens. We're honored to meet you. Can you tell us about your civilization? The alien figure shifted, its patterns moving faster. We are ancient beyond your understanding. We have watched the rise and fall of thousands of species across this galaxy. We have seen the same pattern repeat again and again. A species develops intelligence, then curiosity, then the technology to explore dangerous things they do not understand. Captain Rodriguez kept his voice calm and steady. And what happens then? They destroy themselves, Zethka replied. Every time, without exception. Species that ask too many questions, that poke at things better left alone, that refuse to accept limits. They all end the same way. The holographic alien waved its hand, and images appeared in the air around them. The crew saw planets exploding, stars going dark, entire solar systems torn apart by forces beyond imagination. Each image showed the same thing, civilizations that had pushed their science too far and paid the ultimate price. The Kethroni tried to harness black hole energy, Zethka explained as they watched a world being sucked into darkness. The Moffat attempted to travel through dimensions. The Zelux sought to control time itself, all destroyed by their refusal to stay within safe boundaries. Commander Martinez felt his fears being proven right. How many species have you watched die this way? 17, in this sector alone, the alien answered. Thousands across the galaxy. The pattern never changes. Curiosity leads to experimentation. Experimentation leads to disaster. Disaster leads to extinction. Dr. Bennett shook her head. But curiosity also leads to growth, to medicine, to art, to everything that makes life worth living. Without questions, there can be no answers. Without exploration, there can be no progress. Zethka's patterns swirled in what might have been alien laughter. Progress toward what? Toward death. We have found the answer to survival, order, control, staying within known limits. We have existed for millions of your years because we learned to stop asking dangerous questions. Chief Engineer Carter had been quietly studying his instruments while the alien talked. Now he looked up with a puzzled expression. Captain, I'm reading something strange. That crystal sphere isn't just a ship or a station. It's some kind of testing facility. The energy patterns suggest it's designed to evaluate other species. Zethka turned its attention to Carter. Your engineer is observant. Yes, this is a testing site. We use it to determine which species might be worthy of joining our collective and which are too dangerous to be allowed to continue. And if we fail your test? Captain Rodriguez asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Then you will be prevented from spreading your dangerous curiosity to other worlds, the alien replied. We will quarantine your species to your home system until you learn wisdom or destroy yourselves trying to escape. Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel had been working quietly at her station, analyzing the communication signals and data streams coming from the crystal sphere. What she found made her blood run cold. Captain, I'm detecting massive data storage within that structure. Compressed information signatures that look like they might be consciousness patterns. What does that mean? Dr. Bennett asked. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. I think it means they don't just quarantine species they consider too curious. I think they store them, their minds, their knowledge, their entire civilization compressed into data and kept as prisoners. Zethka's patterns shifted to angry red colors. You will not analyze our systems. You will submit to testing or face immediate consequences. But Captain Rodriguez was beginning to understand the real situation. You're not just observers, are you? You actively suppress any species that might threaten your control. You call it preventing disaster, but really you're preventing competition. We prevent chaos, Zethka replied coldly. We maintain order across the galaxy. Species that cannot learn self-control must be controlled by others. Dr. Bennett stepped closer to the alien projection. But who controls you? Who decided that the Vorthok Collective had the right to judge every other species in the galaxy? What makes you so special that you get to determine who lives free and who doesn't? For the first time the alien seemed uncertain. Its patterns flickered and wavered. We have earned the right through survival. We have proven our wisdom by lasting when others have fallen. Or maybe you've just been too scared to take any risks, Commander Martinez said. Maybe you survived by becoming cowards. The temperature on the bridge dropped suddenly, and Zeth's form grew larger and brighter. You will not insult the collective. You will submit to testing immediately or face destruction. Captain Rodriguez looked around at his crew. He could see the determination in their eyes, the refusal to back down even when facing something far more powerful than they were. This was what made humans human, this stubborn insistence on asking questions even when the questions were dangerous. We won't submit to your test, he said firmly, and we won't let you imprison any more species just because they dare to explore and learn. If you want to stop us, you'll have to try. Zethka's patterns became a swirling storm of angry colors. Be it, you have chosen the path of all the others who came before you. You will join them in our archives, your consciousness preserved as a warning to future species about the dangers of uncontrolled curiosity. The crystal sphere began to glow brighter, and energy beams started reaching toward the Discovery. But Captain Rodriguez smiled grimly. The Vorthok had made one crucial mistake. They thought human curiosity was random and uncontrolled, but they were wrong. All hands, prepare for Emergency Protocol 7, he announced over the ship's communication system. Time to show these aliens what human curiosity can really accomplish when we put our minds to it. The crew moved to their positions with practiced efficiency. They had trained for situations like this, though none of them had imagined they would face an alien intelligence that wanted to imprison their entire species. But they were ready to prove that human curiosity wasn't reckless chaos. It was controlled creativity, and that made all the difference in the universe. Emergency Protocol 7 was something the crew had practiced but never expected to use. It was designed for situations where normal tactics would fail, where the enemy was too powerful to fight directly and too smart to fool with simple tricks. It required every person on the ship to work together in ways that would seem crazy to outside observers but made perfect sense to humans, who understood how their species really thought. Dr. Bennett rushed to her laboratory with a wild idea forming. In her mind, the Vorthok thought human curiosity was chaotic and destructive, but they were wrong about what drove it. Human curiosity wasn't random at all. It was pattern recognition taken to an extreme level. Humans looked at things that seemed unconnected, and found relationships between them. They saw possibilities where others saw only problems. She began programming the ship's quantum computer with something that had never been tried before. Instead of logic trees and mathematical algorithms, she fed it human creativity patterns, art movements, music compositions, poetry structures, even jokes and puns. All the ways humans made connections between ideas that didn't seem to belong together. Chief Engineer Carter was in the engine bay with his team, including technicians P. Collins and Rachel Stone. They were doing something that would have made the Vorthok think they had gone completely insane. They were deliberately creating controlled failures throughout the ship's systems, making it look like the Discovery was falling apart when it was actually being rebuilt in secret. Pete, I need you to make the life support systems throw error messages every 30 seconds, Carter said, but keep the actual airflow steady. Rachel, can you make the artificial gravity fluctuate just enough to be noticeable, but not enough to hurt anyone? The technicians worked with the kind of focused intensity that humans showed when they were solving puzzles that mattered. They had to make chaos look real while keeping everything actually under control. It was like performing magic tricks while building a house at the same time. Commander Martinez was coordinating with his security team in ways that military textbooks said were impossible. Instead of following standard defense protocols, they were preparing for what he called productive confusion. Every team member would act independently, but in coordination, like jazz musicians improvising together. Lieutenant Danny Wright, the ship's best pilot, was preparing the shuttle bay with his flight crew. They included Amy Harrison and Tony Reed, both excellent pilots who understood how to make flying look like panic while actually following a complex plan. Their job was to launch shuttles that would appear to be escaping in random directions, but would actually be creating a pattern that only humans would recognize. Remember, Wright told his team, make it look like we're running scared, but stay in formation. The aliens think we're chaotic, so we'll give them chaos that actually makes sense. Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel was doing the most important job of all. She was analyzing every piece of data coming from the crystal sphere, looking for patterns that the Vorthok themselves might not even know existed. Her computers were running programs that combined human intuition with alien logic, trying to find weaknesses in systems that had been built to be perfect. What she found made her heart race with excitement and terror at the same time. "Captain," she called out over the communication system, "I've found something incredible. The crystal sphere isn't just a testing facility, it's a prison, and there are minds trapped inside it. Lots of them." Captain Rodriguez felt pieces of a puzzle clicking together in his mind. The 17 species they mentioned. "They're not dead, are they?" "No, sir," Maya replied. "Their consciousness patterns are stored in the sphere's databanks. Every species the Vorthok have ever tested and found wanting is still alive in there, compressed into digital form, and used to power their systems." Dr. Bennett's voice came through the speakers from her laboratory. "Captain, if Maya is right, then we might be able to free them. My creativity algorithm is designed to find connections that pure logic can't see. If I can get it into their systems, it might be able to wake up those trapped minds." Zethka's holographic form appeared on the bridge again, its patterns showing confusion and anger. "What are you doing? Your systems are failing. Your crew is acting irrationally. Submit to our control and we will repair your ship before you all die." Captain Rodriguez smiled at the alien. "We're not dying, we're thinking. And that's something your collective stopped doing a long time ago." The ship shook as energy beams from the crystal sphere tried to force their way through the Discovery's shields. But the beams couldn't lock onto targets that kept changing in seemingly random ways. Every time the Vorthok systems thought they understood what the human ship was doing, it did something else that made no logical sense. Chief Engineer Carter's voice echoed through the corridors. "All teams, initiate creative chaos protocol. Make them think we're falling apart while we're actually putting everything together." Throughout the ship, crew members began acting out their parts in the most complex performance ever attempted. They sent distress signals that were actually coded, messages. They vented atmosphere that was actually censored chaff. They fired weapons that were actually communication devices. Everything they did looked like panic and failure to outside observers. But it was all part of a plan that only worked because humans could hold contradictory ideas in their minds at the same time. Dr. Bennett's algorithm finally penetrated the Vorthok data systems, not by breaking through their defenses, but by being so creatively chaotic that the defenses couldn't recognize it as an attack. It slipped into the crystal sphere's computer networks like a virus made of pure human imagination. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The geometric patterns on the sphere's surface began changing in ways that had never happened before. Instead of the orderly shapes the Vorthok preferred, organic curves and random spirals began appearing. The trapped consciousness patterns of 17 different species began to stir and wake up. ZETHKHK's holographic form flickered and wavered. "What have you done? You're disrupting systems that have maintained order for millions of years." "We're setting people free," Captain Rodriguez replied. "Something your collective forgot how to do." Commander Wright launched his shuttles in what looked like a panicked evacuation but was actually a carefully coordinated dance around the crystal sphere. Each shuttle traced part of a massive three-dimensional pattern that human minds could see but alien logic couldn't predict. The pattern was based on human art and music and poetry. All the things that made no practical sense but somehow made perfect emotional sense. The combined effect of Dr. Bennett's creativity virus, the shuttle pattern, and the Discovery's controlled chaos was more than the Vorthok systems could handle. They had been designed to deal with logical attacks and orderly defenses. They had no way to process an assault that was simultaneously chaotic and coordinated, random and purposeful, destructive and creative. For the first time in millions of years, the Vorthok collective encountered something they couldn't understand or control. And deep within the crystal sphere, 17 species worth of imprisoned minds began to remember what it felt like to be curious. The crystal sphere began to crack. Not physically, but in ways that were more important than physical damage. The perfect geometric patterns that had covered its surface for millions of years were breaking apart, replaced by organic swirls and spirals that seemed to dance with life. Inside the sphere, 17 different species were waking up from a digital sleep that had lasted longer than human civilization. Dr. Bennett watched her computer screens with amazement as her creativity, algorithm, spread through the Vorthok systems like wildfire. Every logical pathway it encountered, it changed into something unexpected. Every orderly process it found, it introduced controlled chaos. The alien computers had never experienced anything like human imagination before, and they didn't know how to defend against it. "Captain, I'm getting responses from inside the sphere," Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel reported. Her communication equipment was picking up signals in dozens of different languages from species that had been imprisoned for thousands of years. "They're confused and scared, but they're alive and they're talking." Captain Rodriguez felt a mix of triumph and responsibility. Freeing these beings was the right thing to do, but it also meant taking on the job of helping them adjust to freedom after so long in captivity. "Can you establish clear communication with any of them?" "Working on it," Maya replied, her fingers flying over her controls. "The translation programs are having trouble with some of the older languages, but I'm getting clearer signals from a few species. One of them calls itself the Keepers of Andromeda. Another identifies as the Deep Thinkers from what they call the Small, Bright Cloud." Commander Martinez was coordinating the shuttle defense pattern when something unexpected happened. The energy beams from the crystal sphere suddenly stopped trying to attack the Discovery and began reaching toward the shuttles in what looked almost like a desperate attempt to grab onto something stable. "Captain, I think their systems are losing control. The sphere is acting like it's trying to hold itself together." Chief Engineer Carter confirmed this from the engine bay. "The energy readings from that thing are going crazy. Power levels are spiking and dropping randomly. It's like the whole structure is having some kind of mechanical nervous breakdown." Zethka's holographic form appeared again, but this time it looked different. The geometric patterns that made up its body were flickering and changing without control. "Stop this immediately," it demanded, but its voice sounded less certain than before. "You don't understand what you're doing. The order we maintain is necessary for galactic stability." Dr. Bennett looked up from her computers with fire in her eyes. "Stability for who?" "For the species you've imprisoned. For the civilizations you've prevented from growing and learning. Your order isn't stability, it's stagnation." "We prevent disaster," Zethka insisted, but its patterns were shifting toward colors that might have indicated fear or confusion. "We have seen what happens when species are allowed to explore dangerous knowledge. They destroy themselves and threaten others." "Maybe they destroy themselves because they're alone," Captain Rodriguez said. "Maybe the real danger isn't curiosity, but curiosity without wisdom. What if the solution isn't to stop asking questions, but to ask them together?" The crystal sphere shuddered, and suddenly new voices joined the conversation. The communication systems filled with alien languages as the imprisoned species found ways to speak through the chaos Dr. Bennett's algorithm had created. One voice came through clearly in translated English. "This is Keeper Prime Vashna of the Andromeda Archive. We have been held captive for 3,000 years. Who has awakened us?" "This is Captain Alex Rodriguez of Earth," Alex replied. "We're trying to free everyone the Vorthok have imprisoned." Another voice, deeper and more musical, joined the conversation. "I am Deep Thinker. Our species was captured when we tried to study the singing stars of the Outer Rim. We were called reckless for asking what made the music." More voices followed, each representing a different species with their own story of imprisonment. The builders of perfect crystals had been captured for trying to create new forms of matter. The dancers in dark space had been imprisoned for attempting to communicate with entities that lived between galaxies. The memory weavers had been taken when they tried to preserve the thoughts of dying stars. Each species had been guilty of the same crime in Vorthok eyes. They had been curious about things that seemed dangerous or impossible to understand. They had asked questions that had no easy answers. They had refused to accept limits on their exploration and growth. Zetsko's form was becoming more unstable. As the conversation continued, "You don't understand. We tried cooperation once. We tried sharing knowledge and working together. It led to the great disaster that nearly destroyed our entire region of space." "What disaster?" Dr. Bennett asked. The aliens' patterns shifted to what might have been painful memories. "We encountered something from outside our galaxy. Something that fed on curiosity itself, that grew stronger every time a species asked questions about its nature. We barely survived by shutting down all exploration and maintaining absolute order. Commander Wright, still coordinating the shuttle pattern around the sphere, suddenly understood something important. Captain, what if that's the real test? Not whether we can avoid curiosity, but whether we can handle it responsibly when we work together. Captain Rodriguez felt another piece of the puzzle click into place. Zethka, where is this outside entity now? Still out there, waiting for species curious enough to find it. The alien replied, we have kept the galaxy safe by preventing anyone from reaching the level of cooperation and exploration that would attract its attention. Keeper Prime Vashnar's voice came through the speakers with new urgency. Captain Rodriguez, the entity Zethka speaks of, is not what they think it is. We studied it before our capture. It's not a destroyer, it's a teacher. It tests species to see if they can handle galaxy-level responsibility. Deep thinker Morntel agreed. Yes, we remember now. The entity doesn't feed on curiosity, it feeds on wisdom. It helps species graduate from planetary concerns to cosmic ones. The Vorthok failed its test by choosing fear over growth. The crystal sphere was shaking now, its perfect structure breaking apart as millions of years of suppressed knowledge and creativity were released at once. But instead of destroying it, the chaos was rebuilding it into something new. The geometric patterns were being replaced by organic structures that seemed to pulse with life and possibility. The sphere is transforming, Chief Engineer Carter reported. It's not just a prison anymore, it's becoming some kind of communication hub, linking all these different species together. Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel was coordinating translations between 17 different species plus the humans, and what she was hearing amazed her. Each species had been working on part of a massive puzzle during their imprisonment, using their restricted access to the sphere's systems to study and learn. Now that they could communicate freely, they were sharing pieces of knowledge that fit together in ways none of them could have achieved alone. Captain Rodriguez realized they were witnessing something that had never happened before in galactic history. Instead of one species trying to control all the others, or each species working alone, they were seeing true cooperation between minds that thought in completely different ways. Human creativity was just one piece of a much larger tapestry of intelligence, and somewhere out there in the dark between galaxies, something ancient and patient felt the stirring of a new kind of curiosity, not the reckless exploration of a single species, but the careful cooperative investigation of a community that had learned to ask dangerous questions together. The transformation was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The crystal sphere that had been a prison for millions of years was becoming something entirely new. Its surface rippled like water as organic patterns flowed across it, guided by the combined consciousness of 17 different species working together. For the first time in galactic history, Dr. Bennett watched her screens in wonder as species after species contributed their unique knowledge to the growing network. The builders of perfect crystals shared their understanding of matter manipulation. The dancers in dark space offered their knowledge of interdimensional communication. The memory weavers provided techniques for preserving and sharing complex thoughts across different types of minds. Captain, this is incredible, she said, her voice filled with excitement. Each species has been working on different aspects of the same cosmic puzzle while they were imprisoned. Now that they can share their research, they're solving problems that none of them could handle alone. Captain Rodriguez was coordinating with Commander Martinez to bring the shuttles back safely as the sphere's energy patterns stabilized in their new configuration. The structure was no longer trying to attack or imprison anyone. Instead, it was reaching out with communication beams that seemed designed to connect rather than control. Maya, are you getting clearer communication from our new allies? He asked. Lieutenant. Commander Maya Patel nodded enthusiastically. Yes, sir, and what they're telling me is fascinating. Apparently the Vorthok weren't originally the controlling species they became. They were explorers too, until they encountered something that scared them into isolation. Keeper Prime Vashnar's voice came through the communication system with new clarity. Captain Rodriguez, we owe you and your species a debt that can never be repaid. But we must warn you about what comes next. The entity that frightened the Vorthok is still out there, and our combined activity will certainly attract its attention. Deep thinker Morntel added his musical voice to the conversation. The entity is not evil, but it is a test that must be passed carefully. It evaluates species to determine if they are ready for what you might call cosmic citizenship. Most fail, because they approach it with fear or arrogance. Zethka's holographic form appeared one more time, but now it looked different. The rigid geometric patterns had been replaced by flowing shapes that seemed more alive, more curious. I remember. Now, it said, and its voice carried wonder instead of authority. Before the fear, before the control, we were explorers too. We asked questions and sought answers among the stars. What changed? Dr. Bennett asked gently. We encountered the evaluator alone, Zethka replied. We had no allies, no other perspectives to help us understand what we were facing. When it tested our species, we could only respond with our own limited viewpoint. We failed because we tried to handle cosmic responsibility with planetary thinking. Chief Engineer Carter was monitoring the energy flows between the Discovery and the transformed sphere. Captain, I'm reading massive increases in computational power and information processing. Whatever they're building over there, it's on a scale I've never seen before. The answer came from an unexpected source. One of the imprisoned species called the Pattern Seekers had been working for thousands of years on a project they called the Wisdom Web. It was designed to link different types of intelligence in ways that preserved each species' unique perspective, while allowing them to work together on problems too big for any single civilization. The Wisdom Web is almost complete, announced a voice that introduced itself as Pattern Seeker Krinvo. With the addition of human creativity and the restoration of Orthoc exploration drive, we have all the pieces needed to approach the evaluator as a community rather than as isolated species. Commander Wright and his shuttle pilots had returned to the Discovery, but they brought news that made everyone both excited and nervous. Captain, there's something else out there. Long-range sensors are picking up movement in the space between galaxies. Something big is heading this way. Dr. Bennett felt her heart race with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The evaluator, most likely, confirmed Keeper Prime Vashna. Our combined activity has created the kind of cooperative curiosity signature that it watches for. It will want to test whether we are ready for the next level of existence. Captain Rodriguez looked round his bridge at the crew that had started this incredible journey. They were still the same people who had decided to investigate a mysterious object near Proxima Centauri, but now they were part of something much larger. Representatives of humanity in the first truly cooperative galactic civilization. What kind of test should we expect? He asked. Deep Thinker Morntel's response was both reassuring and challenging. The evaluator doesn't test knowledge or technology. It tests wisdom and cooperation. It presents situations that can only be resolved through the combined efforts of different types of minds working together in harmony. Zethka added its perspective. When we faced it alone, we saw only the danger and tried to fight or hide. We didn't understand that it was offering us an opportunity to grow beyond our limitations. The transformed sphere was now pulsing with a rhythm that seemed to match the heartbeats of all the species connected to it. The Wisdom Web was creating a form of group consciousness that preserved individual identity while allowing unprecedented cooperation. Humans contributed creativity and adaptability. The Vorthok provided their rediscovered sense of exploration. Each species added their unique strengths to the whole. Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel was coordinating communications between all the different species when she detected something new in the cosmic background. Noise. Captain, I'm picking up a signal from the direction of the approaching entity. It's not threatening, it's almost like music. The signal filled the bridge with sounds that were hauntingly beautiful. Not quite music, not quite language, but something that spoke directly to the part of the mind that wondered about the universe and humanity's place in it. Every species in the Wisdom Web heard it differently, but all of them understood its essential message. It's asking if we're ready, Dr. Bennett whispered. Captain Rodriguez stood up and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there among the galaxies, an ancient intelligence was approaching to evaluate whether this unlikely alliance of curious species was ready for responsibilities that spanned the cosmos. The test would be unlike anything any of them had faced before, but for the first time in galactic history, they wouldn't face it alone. 17 species plus humanity, each contributing their unique perspective to challenges that required every kind of intelligence working together. They had learned that curiosity wasn't reckless when it was guided by wisdom, and wisdom wasn't possible without the courage to ask dangerous questions. The evaluator was coming, and they would meet it as partners rather than competitors, as explorers rather than conquerors, as a community of minds that had learned to see wonder instead of just danger in the unknown. The evaluator arrived not as a ship or a being, but as a presence that filled the space around them with possibilities. It appeared as shifting patterns of light and energy that each species perceived differently, but all recognized as something ancient and wise beyond imagination. To humans, it looked like aurora dancing among the stars. To the Vorthok, it appeared as perfect mathematical equations written in light. To each species, it showed itself in ways their minds could understand. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge, of the discovery, no longer feeling like the commander of just one ship, but as a representative of a new kind of galactic community. Around them, the transformed crystal sphere pulsed with the combined consciousness of 18 different species, all linked through the wisdom web, but each maintaining their unique perspective and identity. "Welcome, young Alliance," the evaluator spoke, and its voice was every language and no language at the same time. "We have watched your individual species for many cycles. This is the first time we have encountered true cooperation between such diverse forms of consciousness." Dr. Bennett stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming any fear she might have felt. "We're honored to meet you. Can you tell us about the test we're about to face?" "There is no test," the evaluator replied, and Captain Rodriguez could hear surprise in the voices of several species as this information was translated across the wisdom web. "Tests are for individual species trying to prove their worth. You have already demonstrated something far more valuable." Zethka's holographic form flickered with confusion. "But when our species encountered you before, you presented us with challenges that we failed to overcome." "You presented yourselves with challenges," the evaluator corrected gently. "We showed you possibilities, and you chose to see them as threats. You were asked to cooperate with other species, and you chose isolation. You were offered the chance to share knowledge, and you chose secrecy. Every species that has failed our evaluation has failed because they could not move beyond their own limitations." Deep thinker Morntel's musical voice carried wonder. "Then, what you offered us was not a test of our power, but an opportunity to grow beyond what we thought possible." "Exactly," the evaluator confirmed. "The universe is vast and full of wonders and dangers that no single species can handle alone. Those who try to face cosmic responsibilities with planetary thinking inevitably fail, but those who learn to think as a community, while maintaining their individual strengths, can achieve things that seem impossible." Chief Engineer Carter was studying the energy readings from the evaluator and making discoveries that amazed him. "Captain, this entity isn't just intelligent, it's like a living university, designed to help species graduate to higher levels of existence. The energy patterns I'm seeing suggest it's been doing this for millions of years, across thousands of galaxies." The evaluator's presence seemed to pulse with something that might have been approval. "Your engineer understands correctly. We are not judges, but teachers. We do not destroy species that fail to meet our standards. We simply wait for them to develop the wisdom and cooperation necessary to handle cosmic responsibilities." Keeper Prime Vashna spoke through the wisdom web connection. "Captain Rodriguez, I believe the evaluator is offering us something unprecedented. Not just membership in some galactic organization, but the chance to become teachers ourselves, helping other species develop the cooperation we have discovered." Captain Rodriguez felt the weight and wonder of this possibility. What would that mean for our individual species? Would we lose our unique identities? "Quite the opposite," the evaluator assured him. "True cooperation requires diversity. Each species in a cosmic community contributes perspectives and abilities that others cannot provide. Humans bring creativity and adaptability. The Vortok provides systematic exploration techniques. The builders offer understanding of matter and energy. The dancers contribute knowledge of interdimensional space. Every species has gifts that enrich the whole." Lieutenant Commander Maya Patel was coordinating the translation of concepts that had no words in most languages. The evaluator was describing a form of existence where species maintained their homeworlds and cultures, but also participated in projects that spanned galaxies and dealt with phenomena that individual civilizations could never hope to understand. There are cosmic storms that can only be predicted by combining the observations of dozens of species, the evaluator explained. There are forms of life that exist between galaxies and can only be communicated with through the cooperation of beings who think in fundamentally different ways. There are questions about the nature of existence itself that require every possible perspective to even begin to address. Dr. Bennett's eyes were shining with the excitement of unlimited discovery. "You're describing a form of science and exploration that makes our greatest achievements look like baby steps. Every species goes through the same stages," the evaluator replied. "First they explore their own world, then their solar system, then their local region of space. Most stop there, thinking they have learned enough. A few continue to explore until they encounter questions too big for one species to answer. Those who learn cooperation graduate to cosmic citizenship. Those who don't remain isolated until they develop the wisdom to try again." Commander Martinez, ever practical, asked a question that was on everyone's mind. What happens to species that never develop this cooperation? What happens to those who fail repeatedly? They continue to exist on their homeworlds, developing at their own pace. The evaluator answered, "We do not force growth or punish failure, but they miss out on wonders that can only be experienced through genuine partnership with other forms of consciousness. They limit themselves to planetary concerns when they could be exploring the deepest mysteries of existence." The crystal sphere that had once been a prison was now pulsing with new purpose. The wisdom web was allowing all 18 species to share in the conversation with the evaluator, and each was contributing questions and insights that none of the others would have thought to ask. ZH-KA spoke again, its voice now carrying the curiosity that had been suppressed for millions of years. "If we accept this opportunity, what becomes of the Vorthok Collective's mission to maintain order? Order without growth is stagnation." The evaluator replied, "True order comes from understanding, not control. Your species will help maintain cosmic stability not by suppressing other civilizations, but by helping them develop the wisdom to handle advanced knowledge responsibly." Captain Rodriguez looked around his bridge at the crew that had started this journey by refusing to back down from an unknown challenge. Now they were being offered the chance to represent humanity in a community that spanned galaxies and dealt with questions that pushed the boundaries of imagination itself. "On behalf of humanity, we accept," he said formally. "We're ready to learn how to ask dangerous questions responsibly." One by one, the other species added their acceptance to the growing chorus. The Vorthok committed to rediscovering their exploration heritage while sharing their knowledge of stability and order. The imprisoned species pledged to use their long years of research and contemplation to help others avoid the mistakes that had led to their capture. The evaluator's presence grew brighter and more complex, as it prepared to welcome 18 species into cosmic citizenship. "Then let us begin your real education. The first lesson is this: the universe is not just stranger than you imagine, it is stranger than you can imagine. But together, you can learn to find wonder instead of fear in that strangeness." Around them, the stars themselves seemed to pulse with new possibilities. Humanity's curiosity, once called reckless by those who feared growth, had become the foundation for a new age of exploration that would span galaxies and millennia. They had proven that asking dangerous questions was not reckless when done with wisdom, cooperation, and the courage to face whatever answers the universe might provide. The greatest adventure in galactic history was about to begin, and it would be guided by the principle that had brought them this far: the refusal to accept limits on curiosity, when curiosity was tempered with wisdom and shared among friends.